Listen up. A tractor is supposed to be a farmer's best friend. But what happens when that trusty steed turns into your absolute worst enemy? There is a machine on this list so astronomically terrible that it didn't just break mechanical parts. It broke bank accounts and nearly bankrupted an entire legendary brand. But I am keeping that ultimate financial disaster locked away at the #1 spot. Today we are counting down the 10 worst tractors that literally made tough American farmers cry. Hit that subscribe button, drop a comment, and brace yourself for pure mechanical misery. Kicking off our countdown at number 10 is the Massey Harris 333. Introduced in 1956, the promotional brochures promised a bold new era of farming. Weighing in at roughly 6,000 pounds and capable of reaching a top speed of around 13 miles per hour, it boasted modern styling designed to replace their aging lineup. Farmers eagerly flipped through those glossy pages, imagining a sleek machine that would make heavy plowing an absolute breeze. The marketing executives sitting in their pristine offices painted a picture of pure agricultural perfection for the hard-working American heartland. But when the rubber actually met the dirt, reality hit hard. The Massey Harris 333 was quite literally a case of too little, too late. Underneath that fresh, bright coat of paint, it was essentially just an updated, restyled version of the older Model 33. Generating barely 41 drawbar horsepower, it severely lacked the necessary competitive grunt for the rapidly evolving American farm. By the time it finally rolled into the fields, competitor brands were already releasing tractors with vastly superior advanced features, leaving this newly painted relic completely in the dust during heavy pulling operations. Farmers found themselves constantly downshifting, listening to the four-cylinder engine lugging painfully, and losing precious hours in the field while their neighbors on newer machines blew right past them. It was a frustrating, expensive lesson that a flashy brochure simply cannot substitute for raw, unadulterated torque. It wasn't a villain that actively tried to destroy your farm, but rather a profound disappointment masquerading as the future. But hey, at least the 333 didn't actively refuse to start when the temperature dropped below freezing. The same absolutely cannot be said for our next green machine. Coming in at number 9 is the John Deere 3010 diesel. Introduced in 1960 as part of the revolutionary new generation of power, it had massive shoes to fill, living entirely in the colossal shadow of the legendary 4010. Dealerships hyped it up as the perfect middleweight champion. Weighing around 6,500 pounds with a top transport speed of nearly 15 miles per hour, it definitely looked the part. It sported that iconic green and yellow livery that practically bleeds American agriculture, promising smooth operation and 55 horsepower at the PTO. But this machine harbored a dark, frustrating secret if you farmed anywhere north of the Mason-Dixon line. The 3010 diesel hated cold mornings significantly more than the farmers who owned them. Getting this early 24-volt electrical system green machine to fire up on a frosty November morning was a Herculean task. It routinely required desperate prayers, excessive amounts of ether-starting fluid, and incredibly colorful language. You could crank that engine until the dual batteries were completely dead, and the tractor would just sit there, stubbornly refusing to produce a single puff of diesel smoke. Furthermore, when pushed hard in the field, those engine blocks had hidden vulnerabilities around the balancer shafts and cylinder liners. These design flaws sometimes caused internal coolant leaks that turned a minor field delay into a massive, wallet-draining overhaul. Imagine prepping for a crucial day of fieldwork only to find your prized tractor demanding thousands of dollars in deep engine repairs. It was a machine that tested your sanity every single sunrise. While the 3010 struggled just to wake up, our number 8 pick was busy snapping its own fragile bones on the dirt. Landing at the number 8 spot is the Massey Ferguson 130. Let us be perfectly clear about something. American farmland is brutally unforgiving. It requires rugged, over-engineered muscle. The MF 130, however, was a delicate French import. Weighing a measly 3,100 pounds and maxing out at a sluggish 14 miles per hour, it arrived on our shores acting like a fragile tourist. With only about 30 horsepower on tap, It was fundamentally too light and significantly underpowered for the heavy-duty, punishing reality of expansive American agriculture in the 1960s. This tractor felt like it was actively, maliciously plotting against you. The transmission components were notoriously weak, and the overall build quality felt shockingly flimsy compared to domestic iron. You would hook it up to a standard, everyday farm implement, and you could practically hear the machine begging for mercy before crucial components started snapping under pressure. Sigh. Let's pause for a second. Who here has ever tried to frantically find specialized metric replacement parts for a rare, imported tractor while a massive storm is rolling in? Let me know your trauma down in the comments. The sheer frustration of babying a tractor that was supposed to be doing the hard work for you drove countless operators straight up the wall. You spent significantly more time frantically turning wrenches on this fragile import than actually turning the soil. It was essentially a lightweight garden tractor trapped in a heavy-duty farming world. But while the Massey Ferguson 130 desperately lacked the necessary muscle to get the job done, our next tractor had plenty of pulling power. The real problem was that fighting it was like wrestling a wild bear every day. Grabbing the number 7 spot is the Case 1030, infamously dubbed the Comfort King. Talk about the ultimate irony in agricultural marketing. In the late 1960s, Case desperately wanted to assure farmers they could work grueling hours without breaking their backs. Weighing a hefty 10,000 pounds and hitting highway speeds of 15 miles per hour, the brochures promised a luxurious ride atop a roaring 100-horsepower engine. You were supposed to be the undisputed king of your fields, ruling your agricultural domain in absolute comfort and unmatched style from sunrise to sunset. But the exact second you climbed into that operator's seat, the royal illusion shattered into a million painful pieces. Depending on the specific model year, the heavy mechanical clutch was an absolute leg breaker, and the steering was notoriously, unforgivingly stiff. It genuinely required the upper body strength of a professional lumberjack just to make a simple headland turn at the end of a long row. And the draft-o-matic hydraulic system? It was frequently erratic, entirely unpredictable, and constantly required tedious manual adjustments, completely defeating the purpose of having an automated draft control system anyway. Instead of a comfortable throne, the operator's seat felt like a medieval torture device after a grueling 12-hour shift in the hot summer sun. You did not just drive the Case 1030, you physically wrestled it into submission every single day. The sheer physical toll it took on hardworking American farmers made the Comfort King moniker feel like a cruel, twisted joke played by corporate engineers. If you thought fighting a heavy steering wheel was exhausting, wait until you meet a tractor that drives you clinically insane with invisible, unpredictable ghosts hiding inside. Stepping into the number 6 spot is the White 270. On the surface, this was a genuinely beautiful piece of machinery. Weighing around 8,000 pounds with a top speed of nearly 18 miles per hour, it looked like a modern marvel sitting on the dealership lot. Generating a solid 70 PTO horsepower, history buffs will tell you it actually had a rugged drivetrain that was surprisingly easy to service. Farmers bought into the sharp silver aesthetic, deeply hoping the field performance would perfectly match its undeniable curb appeal and robust mechanical foundation. So why is it on this list? Because of a maddening, invisible phantom that drove operators clinically insane: the mysterious fuel starvation issue. Picture this: you are pulling a heavy load, the tractor is running beautifully, and suddenly the RPMs drop. The engine starts choking, pouring white smoke, and completely dies in the middle of a massive field. You think you are completely out of diesel, but the fuel tank is over half full. These machines, particularly the Rusamaster injection pumps, were highly susceptible to catastrophic failure from the tiniest amount of trapped air. The low-pressure lines would secretly suck in air, or deteriorating rubber retainer rings would unexpectedly plug the fuel pump. It was a terrifying phantom problem. You would bleed the fuel lines, it would run perfectly for 6 straight hours, and then boom, it was dead again. It was the ultimate psychological torture for a stressed farmer. Having a tractor that physically works but constantly pretends it is out of fuel is a special kind of nightmare. But speaking of absolute nightmares, wait until you see the devastating transmission disaster that is coming up next. Stepping into the top 5 is the Allis-Chalmers 680. Introduced in the early 1980s, this mid-size workhorse appeared to be exactly what smaller operations desperately needed. Weighing in at roughly 7,500 pounds and producing a respectable 83 horsepower at the PTO, it promised efficiency and versatility. Dealerships touted its ability to hit nearly 18 miles per hour on the road while easily handling a variety of everyday utility chores. Farmers bought it hoping for a reliable partner, but they were soon met with a barrage of incredibly frustrating, persistent mechanical headaches. The core of the nightmare revolved around infuriating electrical gremlins and the notoriously temperamental Lucas Cav fuel injection pump. The electrical system seemed to possess a mind of its own, constantly blowing fuses and causing essential gauges to inexplicably die in the middle of operation. But the injection pump was the true villain. It had a devastating tendency to fail without any warning whatsoever, instantly turning your running tractor into a massive, useless paperweight. You could be in the middle of critical bailing and suddenly the engine would just starve out and abruptly shut down completely. The financial pain was not just the expensive pump rebuild, it was the devastating cost of crucial downtime. While you waited weeks for specialized parts to arrive, your valuable crops sat entirely ruined by incoming weather. Calculating the lost revenue during peak harvest season because of a faulty pump drove many owners to tears. Being utterly stranded in the field is bad enough, but our next machine decided that completely destroying its own transmission was a fun, everyday hobby. Get ready for a monumental drivetrain disaster. Crashing into the number 4 position is the Massey Ferguson 1085. Hitting the market in the 1970s, this machine featured a truly legendary power plant. Under the hood sat a rugged Perkins 318 cubic inch diesel engine, pumping out a very solid 80 horsepower. Weighing roughly 9,000 pounds, it had the heavy iron foundation needed for serious tillage. On paper, matching that incredibly reliable Perkins engine with a heavy chassis should have created an absolutely bulletproof farming legend. Instead, it created an unforgiving mechanical trap. The catastrophic flaw was the infamous multi-power transmission system. Marketed as a revolutionary shift-on-the-go feature, it was basically a guaranteed ticking time bomb. The fatal design flaw meant that if you were operating in the low range and headed down a steep grade, you completely lost all engine braking. The tractor would terrifyingly freewheel out of control, putting the operator's life in immediate, severe danger. If the sheer terror of freewheeling did not get you, the internal clutch packs would inevitably burn out and self-destruct under the pressure of heavy American draft loads. When that multi-power transmission inevitably failed, it was a financial catastrophe. You could not simply pop a cover off. You had to literally split the entire heavy tractor perfectly in half to access the completely shredded internal components. If the phrase multi-power failure just gave you a cold sweat, hit that like button right now. It was a brilliant engine utterly ruined by a delicate transmission. Speaking of absolute transmission failures, wait until you hear about the massive, slipping mess that is coming up next in our countdown. Securing the number 3 spot is the Allis-Chalmers 760. This was supposed to be the massive muscle that dominated expansive grain operations. Weighing in at an imposing 15,000 pounds and generating a staggering 160 horsepower at the PTO, it was designed to pull massive implements across endless acres. Capable of hitting 19 miles per hour, it looked like a formidable beast ready to conquer the earth. The brochures promised relentless pulling power, but the brutal reality inside that enclosed cab was a completely different, miserable story. The Achilles heel of this orange giant was the incredibly problematic power director transmission. While it offered 20 forward speeds, the complex linkage system was an absolute nightmare to keep properly adjusted. Under the extreme strain of heavy draft work, the transmission had a maddening tendency to slip completely out of gear. Imagine dragging a massive chisel plow through dense clay, and suddenly the tractor violently drops out of gear, bringing thousands of pounds of rolling mass to a jarring, sudden halt. It was incredibly abusive to both the equipment and the operator. Fixing the power director required an advanced engineering degree and incredibly deep pockets. Furthermore, the cab ergonomics felt like they were designed by someone who deeply hated farmers. The air conditioning frequently failed, turning the cab into a roaring, glass-enclosed greenhouse of absolute misery. Slipping gears and sweating profusely is frustrating, but our runner-up literally gave hard-working farmers severe physical whiplash. Enter the most universally hated, violently shifting transmission in the entire history of modern agriculture. Claiming the infamous number 2 spot is the Ford 871 diesel, specifically the models cursed with the Selecto-speed transmission. Introduced in 1959, this lightweight machine weighed roughly 3,500 pounds and pushed out around 42 horsepower. Ford heavily marketed this as the greatest agricultural advancement of the decade. The brochures promised seamless shifting without ever touching a mechanical clutch pedal. It sounded like futuristic magic to farmers exhausted by heavy clutching. But that futuristic magic quickly turned into a violent, deeply painful reality. Farmers universally gave it a brutal, highly accurate nickname, the Jerko-speed. The internal system utilized a deeply complex arrangement of planetary gears and hydraulic bands that even the dealership mechanics fundamentally did not understand. When you attempted to shift gears under a heavy load, the tractor would engage so violently that it practically threw the operator directly off the back of the seat. It literally gave farmers severe whiplash. You were not driving a tractor, you were riding an angry mechanical bull that actively wanted to break your neck. When the delicate hydraulic bands inside the Jerko-speed inevitably snapped, the repair bills were astronomically high. It was a system so poorly executed that many owners literally ripped the transmission entirely out and replaced it with an older, manual gearbox just to regain their sanity. The Jerko-speed caused intense physical pain and endless frustration. But our absolutely undisputed number 1 spot, it caused total unrecoverable financial devastation on a scale never before seen. Brace yourselves for the ultimate mechanical villain. Finally, taking the number 1 spot as the absolute worst tractor to ever make American farmers cry is the Allis-Chalmers 8550. Introduced in the late 1970s, this was supposed to be the ultimate king of the four-wheel drive giants. Weighing an earth-crushing 32,000 pounds and powered by a massive twin-turbocharged 731 cubic inch inline-6 engine, it generated a terrifying 300 engine horsepower. It was a massive, articulated behemoth designed to conquer thousands of acres with absolute ease and supreme dominance. But this giant had a fatal, catastrophic heart defect. The incredibly massive engine block was notoriously prone to cracking under heavy, sustained loads. The cooling system simply could not handle the immense heat generated by the twin turbos, causing the internal temperatures to skyrocket. Without warning, the engine would violently throw connecting rods straight through the side of the engine block, completely destroying the motor in a spectacular, deafening explosion of boiling oil and shrapnel. It was the ultimate, absolute disaster right in the middle of planting season. The financial pain was practically apocalyptic. Replacing or repairing that massive engine cost tens of thousands of dollars, completely bankrupting smaller operations overnight. It cost as much as buying a brand new pickup truck at the time just to fix it. This colossal failure severely damaged the Allis-Chalmers brand reputation and cost American agriculture millions in lost revenue and devastating repair bills. It was the absolute pinnacle of mechanical failure, cementing its legacy as the ultimate worst tractor in American history. And there you have it, the 10 absolute worst tractors that broke hearts and bank accounts. But let us be completely honest for a moment. Despite the millions of dollars lost and the countless tears shed in the dirt, dealing with these highly temperamental, poorly designed machines forced American farmers to become some of the greatest, most fiercely resilient mechanics in the entire world. Thank you for watching. If you survived owning one of these beasts, comment your survival story below, hit that subscribe button, and we will see you on the next deep dive into heavy machinery history.